Hello, welcome once again to Leto's Law. I'm Steve Leto. Do you use self-checkouts when you go to the store? Do you steal stuff? Turns out a lot of people do. And I talked quite a bit about people asking to see your receipts when you leave the store. And a lot of people complain and say, why are they checking me when most of the theft occurs with the workers themselves stealing from the store? And, well, one thing is they should try to stop theft everywhere because it hurts them and it makes them pass those costs along to other people who actually pay for the stuff. But the second thing is, it turns out that people stealing from the stores, especially at the self checkouts, is probably higher than you might think. And I ran across one story on this. It was in the Atlantic. And then I saw several other stories on it, but I like the Atlantic's one the best. So I'm going to talk about this. The article is titled The Banana Trick and Other Acts of Self Checkout Thievery. Article is written by Renee Chun. And she talks about how self checkout theft has become so widespread that it now has its own language. So ringing up an expensive steak, for instance, with a code for a cheap variety is called the banana trick. Okay, so in other words, you got two things. You ring up the wrong one on purpose. That's the banana trick. And then, of course, if you can put something in the bag without scanning it at all, that's called the pass around. And of course, there's the switcheroo and so on. So the question is, how common are self-scanning scams? Well, first of all, they've done some anonymous online questionnaires that show that nearly 20% of the people who answered the questions have admitted to stealing at the self-checkout in the past. More than half of those people said they gamed the system because detection by store security was unlikely. And this is something that a lot of people were talking about when they first brought in these self-checkout lanes was, aren't you just inviting people to steal from you? So a lot of people are saying, I told you so at this point. A 2015 study of self-checkouts with a handheld scanner conducted by criminologists at the University of Leicester also found evidence of widespread theft. After auditing 1 million transactions over the course of a year, and that's $21 million in transactions, they found that nearly $850,000 worth of goods had left the store without being scanned. That is, stolen. The Leicester researchers concluded that the case it was so easy to steal that it's likely inspiring people who might not otherwise steal. Okay? You make it easy for them to do it, they'll do it. Rather than walk into a store intending to steal, a shopper might, at the end of a trip, decide that, give myself a little discount here. As one retail employee told the researchers, people who don't traditionally intend to steal might realize that, I bought 20 of something, maybe I can get a couple for free. The authors further proposed that retailers bore some blame for the problem. In their zeal to cut labor costs, the study says supermarkets could be seen as having created a crime-generating environment that promotes profit above social responsibility. I personally don't like self-checkouts because it's just I don't like it. You put your cart there and you're pulling your stuff out and you're scanning it, you're putting it in the plastic bags, and then there's not enough room here and to put the bags in here, but the cart's still got stuff in it, and it's just not very well thought out, But whether out of social responsibility or frustration with shrinkage, some retailers, including Albertsons, Big Y, Pavilions, and Vons, have scaled back or eliminated self-scanning, at least in some stores. Others continue to do it. Worldwide, self-checkout terminals are expected to number 325,000 by this year, up from 191,000 just 5 years ago. In some places, meanwhile, the likelihood of being punished for petty shoplifting is decreasing. Even if a manager wants to press charges, many police departments can't be bothered with supermarket theft. In 2012, for example, the Dallas Police Department, of course, I've talked about this, enacted a policy where officers would no longer respond to shoplifting calls if it amounted to less than $50. In 2015, the threshold was raised yet again to $100. So it's one of those things where if they don't stop you from stealing, but they catch you, it's like, what's going to happen now? So it's not surprising that some people steal from machines more readily than from humans. Anyone who pays for more than half of their stuff in a self-checkout is a moron, somebody said on Reddit, which, of course, is a font of wisdom. A lot of people agree, but again, anonymous stuff on Reddit. The director of communications of the National Association for Shoplifting Prevention, NASP, believes that self-checkouts tempt people who are already predisposed to shoplifting by allowing them to rationalize their behavior. And I hear this one a lot. Most shoplifters are, in fact, otherwise law-abiding citizens, and they would, chase you down to possibly return money you dropped. But, since you're a machine, you're not going to miss it as much as if it was a person. A robot cashier, though, changes the equation. It gives the false impression of anonymity, a good word I used 2 days ago. That's how my mind works. This apparently empowers people to shoplift, which isn't to say that all shoppers feel equally empowered. Frank Farley, a psychologist at Temple, says that many supermarket thieves have what he calls type T personalities. That is the thrill of it. Shopping can be quite boring because it's such a routine, and this is a way to make the routine more interesting. These can be risk-taking, stimulation-seeking people. According to his theory, some of these become like base jumpers or mafia hitmen. Okay, he's stretching a bit there. While others settle for swiping stuff from the grocery store. And, it's weird because I personally like the idea that there's someone scanning my stuff for me, that they can answer questions, that they can handle the transaction. And the idea that I'm going to go and do the work myself as a checkout, I just find that wrong, okay? If you have a business, you want to sell me stuff, I'd like there to be someone standing there to sell me the stuff, okay? And now, if all stores go to the automatic checkouts without humans, I guess I'll have to put up with it. But right now, when I go to the store, the grocery store that has the self-checkouts and has the human cashiers, I will do the human cashiers unless it is so grossly disproportionate where it's going to be like, you got to spend an hour here, but 10 minutes here. Then okay, fine. But if it's even possible that I can get through this line roughly the same amount of time, I'll do it. And the only thing that annoys me is if I go to the store and they have 20 aisles, 19 of them are closed. There's a line a mile long at the one that's got a human at it, and then there's a bunch of these, self-checkouts over here. Then I get annoyed, okay? But I know the stores want to go to all self-checkout. I think it's crazy, and I don't like it. If they do it, there's only so much we can do. I spend my money at the places that I think appreciate my business. And if you appreciate my business enough to have a human being stand there and take my money, I will give my money to the person all day long, okay? So this kind of ties in with the idea. But again, what we're talking about here is the self-checkouts. You understand that this isn't news to the retail industry. They know. The retail industry knows that they're losing 4%, 5%, whatever it is, at the self-checkouts. And they've calculated it out. They say, okay, we could pay a human being minimum wage to do the checkouts, to make up that 3 or 4% shrink, whatever it is. But we can just have a self-checkout, make people check their own stuff out. Yeah, we're going to lose 3 or 4%, but we're making up the salary of this one person here, the hourly wage. And then if it still doesn't quite work out, we can just raise prices. So the irony of it is that if people are shoplifting and they know it, and they've made it easier and they know it, but they're going to raise prices to make up for it so we can scan our own stuff. There's just something wrong with that, okay? It's a problem. So I don't do the self-checkouts. I don't steal from the self-checkouts, but apparently a lot of people do. So that's the situation with the self-checkouts. Questions or comments, put them below. Otherwise, talk to you later. Bye-bye.